did you happen to watch the opening episode of Last of Us?
I did.
Cool.
I watched first episode.
And we're both coming to this property pretty darn cold, right? Neither of us ever played any of the games or anything?
Yes, I have been multiple times by people with breathless excitement tried to explain to me how amazing this game is. I tried to play it once. It's basically a TV show in video game form. You navigate between cutscenes. That was my impression of it. I played it for 2 hours, virtually no gameplay.
For you, it's not so much a video game coming to live action. It's more like almost an animated feature coming to live action.
Yeah, pretty much.
And going into it, I was primed. Didn't I know how these things go? But I was primed to be like, all right, give me that wokeness. I know the wokeness is coming. This is going to be another time. Another time they're stepping on their dick. I was like, all right. The second iteration of the game pissed so many people off with all the wokeness, and the writer who was responsible for that is heavily involved in the show. So I'm ready. So, yeah, I watched it with that. And, I always have the caveat in my mind of, the rage baiters are, that's how they are. So I take shit with a grain of salt, very much so.
Andrew went in pre-rage baited, by the way. He was all ready to be, he went on a 10-minute rant about how his daughter was black.
Oh, my God. She was so black.
Just deal, man. Just deal. Move on with the show.
I've heard this from a few other people on YouTube. I don't want to say she stole the show, but she was a damn good actress and she did a real good job.
Yeah, she was great.
And she looks like, I actually was looking up on the Internet Movie Database, she looks like the childhood version of Thandie Newton, if you know who she is.
I do know who Thandie Newton is. Yeah, maybe she does.
Her face looked just like her.
Okay, I didn't think about that. Okay.
I was looking to see if that was her daughter or something. But no, she did a real good job. Overall impression of the show, what would you think?
Overall impression, number one, I kind of went into it with the wokeness grain of salt in mind, of course, and also thinking, weren't we kind of done with zombies? Aren't zombies over? That was 10 years ago. But they didn't really actually do much with the zombie thing in this episode, at least. Maybe they'll get more into it later on, but that wasn't central in any way. That was just a thing that was kind of happening off to the side. So plot-wise, I liked the pacing of it. I liked how they were developing the characters. And I got to say, Pedro Pascal is probably, with the exception of the second Wonder Woman movie, probably one of my favorite actors working today. He is so good.
Yeah, he's just likable. He's got that going on. So in every damn role he's been in, except, you're correct, except for that role where he was channeling Hollywood's impression of Donald Trump or whatever the fuck he was doing.
God, what the hell was with that?
That was weird.
But there was this one moment where Ellie, she was yelling at him when they were in the apartment, and he was laying on the couch trying to ignore her, and she mentioned something about his daughter or something like that.
Your watch is broken.
And there was just a little kind of subtle twitch in his face. He didn't overreact or anything, just a little subtle movement he made. And I was like, oh, that was acting right there. That was just, bam, it. I mean, he knows those little subtle things. And I first noticed that back in Mandalorian when he was able to do that shit through a face mask. You couldn't see his face at all. And he'd just do a little movement in his body and he's thinking about Baby Yoda.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. And I'll judge him on his acting separate from his media personality, Twitter personality, because like most Hollywood people, I think he tends to come off like a complete psychotic douchebag when he's on Twitter. But still, I like him as an actor. I like seeing him things.
You can't argue with his skills, man. You can't argue with him. He is that good.
My overall thoughts were, now that you say it, I very much agree. Zombie epidemic, wasn't that 10 years ago? What I was thinking as I'm watching it is, so Ellie's the girl with the cure that everybody needs to get to a lab and say, they've done this so many times. This is such a fucking trope. And, the first video game might have come out 10 years ago when, maybe it was very timely. But
when zombies were a thing, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, you're going to do a 10-year time jump, and the start of it's at the start of a zombie apocalypse 10 years later. Walking Dead, what is that? Maybe a year to maybe 3 years is what that comic's covering.
Right.
People are still dying off. The weak and stupid are still dying off. 10 years into it, people have got walls built, fortifications. All the dumb people have already died off. You know how to handle the zombie apocalypse 10 years into it. I'm not saying it's a good thing. the zombie apocalypse. But, 10 years into it, you think people would have like a grip on that shit. If they didn't have a grip on it, then humanity wouldn't be there.
Well, they kind of did seem to have a grip on it. That fortified town they started out in there was, pretty well put together. I mean, it was a totalitarian state where they were like hanging those who, went against everything. But, extreme measures for extreme times. I mean, they seem to have their shit together.
So they had their shit together. They have a grip on the situation. Then what the fuck are we watching? Ellie, I liked her very much in Game of Thrones playing Lyanna Mormont because they made the little girl into a complete badass. And that character, I don't want to say that character didn't exist in the book, but basically that, they might have mentioned her as being some kind of relative or currently living, niece of Jorah Mormont living on Bear Island. But she wasn't that character. So in the show, they made her a badass, and I loved every minute of it. I mean, it might have been a little blown out the way she died fighting the giant and everything, but still, her initial few scenes when she was like interrupting dudes in the meeting and talking shit, that was really cool.
Yeah, I thought she was kind of overcompensating.
In Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Well, think of the position she was in.
Had I been in a real room with a person like that, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, clearly she feels threatened and is overcompensating by being aggressive. Okay.
Yeah, but as soon as you think that, she'd like completely emasculate you in front of everyone. That's how good she was. Her standout breakout performance from that show is probably 80% of the reason why she's in this. She was like, because of that performance, she was very much primed to get a big role. So here we have a little Game of Thrones reunion with the sand snake and the little bear. So that's cool. I don't know if I like her that much in this. I mean, I like how she's all kind of angry and foul-mouthed. That's cool. I've seen her doing a couple of interviews, and I feel bad for anybody of that approximate age who is attaining stardom in Hollywood nowadays, because guaranteed you're going to get asked about, hey, so what do you feel about LGBTQ shit?
Oh, God.
And the rational answer would be like, could we just move on to the next question? I'm not really answering shit like that. But then they're going to play that clip of you saying that and be like, oh, why does he hate gay people? So they're in this position and they've grown up, whether it be in schools or, possibly in their situation with tutors. They've grown up in these situations where it's like, everything's just all gay pride, blah, blah, blah. So they give some kind of like non-offensive, not really pegging themselves into a whole kind of answer.
Most likely briefed by their agent. Here's the answer you give when asked this question so you don't create a firestorm.
Well, and then the headlines come out saying, oh, this actress says she's never felt comfortable being a girl. She's trans. That happened like a week or two before the show came out. And I'm watching, I'm just going, oh, that poor girl. Just stop asking people these idiot questions.
I would imagine every girl has had a time in her life where she didn't feel comfortable being a girl.
Puberty blockers.
Yeah, that's just normal.
Yeah. Top surgery. Let's get those tits off. Yeah, it's weird. You're like pinning them against the wall and like spotlight. Like, what do you think about all this is going on? And don't you dare say the wrong thing.
This is why I pay very little attention to what actors do outside of acting. Without you telling me about it, I would have no idea that Pedro Pascal was a major woke-divist. I had no idea because I don't think I've ever seen an interview with him. I've seen his work.
That's probably the best policy.
I've seen what he does on screen, and he impresses the hell out of me. So, yeah, Game of Thrones girl here, Ellie. Maybe it was because she was standing next to Pedro Pascal for most of her scenes, but I just got the impression from her that she was dropping all of her lines terribly woodenly. She felt uncomfortable. I don't want to say she's not a good actor, but she didn't feel like a very good actor. She felt like somebody they got because she was in Game of Thrones once. There were several scenes that I was like, that was the take you went with? You couldn't have done a take two on that? Really?
Did you ever used to watch Fringe at all, sci-fi show?
Oh, yeah, I watched several episodes of that.
Did you recognize Anna Torv as his beat-up-faced, swollen-eyed girlfriend?
Yeah, that was her, wasn't it? Okay. Oh my goodness,
her.
Okay.
Yep.
The big goose egg on her eye kind of distracted me, I guess, but okay.
She has like a really distinctive kind of growly voice for a girl, and until I heard her talking like that, I was like, oh, that's her. That giant swollen eye makes you look 15 years older. And a complaint I've heard is up until the time jump, action-packed awesomeness, and then the remaining, 50 minutes of the episode was kind of boring.
I had a 100% approval of how that was done. I think that's how a first episode should be. You got to grab people, and then you got to set things up, and that's exactly what they did. They followed the playbook.
That's true. Maybe just because it was such a sharp contrast, because they did the beginning so well that it was very apparent how different it was. I don't know.
The one thing that really impressed me the most, it's a video game adaptation that wasn't complete dog shit. Can you think of any other example?
Wasn't there like one existing notable highlight out there that was kind of awesome and everybody was shocked that it was awesome? Or have they just not hit that mark?
If it was actually awesome, it would come to mind.
Oh, isn't Arcane? That's from League of Legends. Bam! So that is currently the king, the crown wielder. And this show, no matter how good it is, will not be
I
Arcane.
had some problems with Arcane, but we've been over that before.
I thought it was so good.
Yeah. I get very offended when you throw a music video into a show. They're just wasting time then.
So if you cut Imagine Dragons out of it, that would take care of most of your problems?
That would take care of a good chunk of my problems. I had a few other problems.
All right, so we're both in on Last of Us for more episodes. That's cool. We'll talk about it as the show develops. Hopefully, it's not like, like you said, 10 years too late.